that was quite the shot. How long do you think you're going to remember that one and where you were when you saw it?
I know exactly where I was.
Yeah.
I was at home, but
I hope so.
I went to go watch in my friend's room. He has a pretty big room.
Right.
And at the time, Michigan got a huge lead, and then we wanted to come back out later in the second half, and then Houston started to come back. So we actually went back to my friend's room for good luck, superstitious us.
Okay, I like that.
And they hit the shot, and I've never gone crazier with my group of friends.
We all thought it was over.
Wow.
The mood was terrible, and then in a split second, everything suddenly changed. The highlight of Michigan's run to the Final Four thus far, and what a journey it's been.
It has been quite a journey, and it's been amazing to experience this. I don't think at the beginning of the year you ever would have thought that this team would have amount to all that they've accomplished this season.
Yeah.
But it has been a historic season for Michigan basketball, and congratulations to Coach Beeline.
Congratulations, Coach B. So tonight we're going to have your highlights about the remaining teams in March Madness, the Michigan Wolverines hockey team, who is also in the Frozen Four, and it's all from a student's perspective, all right here on Sportsnite.
Welcome back to Sports Night. My name is Oliver Moody alongside Connor Beckler, ready to bring you some basketball games that you might or might not have watched this past weekend. We hope you have. It was quite a tournament. This has definitely been one of the tournaments to remember, at least in my lifetime, a short lifetime. But
I think you've had a little bit of everything. You got the Cinderella run, you got a couple blue bloods battling it out, and some new faces or teams that are consistently up there but never really make that final push that have a chance to do it this year.
And the one surprising thing is we've never seen one side of the bracket absolutely crumble in the way that it did, whereas the other side of the bracket relatively stayed, you know, the way that we thought it was going to go.
That's a good point.
So, you know, complete opposite ends of the spectrum on each side of the bracket, but that's what March Madness is all about. That's what makes it fun. So, Connor, we're here today to break down who are the 4 teams left in the dance.
Right. I have to ask you first, how's your bracket doing?
Oh, terrible.
Right now? Terrible?
I picked Arizona to win and Villanova to win in most of my brackets. So Villanova was a great choice. Arizona, not so much. But the surprising thing was, despite my Arizona pick, my brackets did decently well up until about Duke, when Duke lost to Kansas. I had Duke over Kansas. As I said, I'm no longer rocking chalk. And they burned me right back the one year I decided not to go with them. Classic.
That's a tough one. It's been a tough year for me, too. I do have Villanova, who I thought would go all the way, and that I'm basically holding on to them. But I do a gentleman's agreement with my grandfather, longtime viewer of Sports Night, Bill Schaefer, every year. And this year, he nailed it. He got Michigan, he got Villanova, he got Kansas, all in his Final Four. Knocked me right out of our agreement. So congrats, Pops. I have to give it to you there. But I'm building my Masters squad so that I can win that one.
And Connor, don't forget, happy birthday, man.
Oh, thank you.
The big 2-1.
Yeah.
Big 2-1. Better take it easy out there tonight. I hope, hopefully it's composed.
It started out with quite the bang. I was working to get a 6-page paper done at 12 midnight when it struck 21 for me, and I fell asleep. So that's how I got my 21st birthday started.
Well, plenty of time to make up.
I got to get after it later.
Make up for it.
All right.
Especially this upcoming weekend.
That's true.
Moving on to the big action that we have at hand today for the show, we're going to break down just how each member of the Final Four got to San Antonio. And to start it all off, the big front-runner favorites, Villanova.
Audio Jungle.
So here we are, Villanova, road to the Final Four. Eric Paschal misses the three-pointer, but Crosby Roundtree with the cleanup. Here's some more Villanova madness. As you see, a shot blocked. It does not matter. Villanova will take another three. Gillespie finds it. They can score it in any way, whether they get you off the second chance point, the three-pointer, or in transition. Villanova cruised through the first round against Radford. It was easy, never looked like it was a test at all. Hashtag Virginia. And even Kansas had a little trouble in their first round game, but Villanova looked great. Second round versus Alabama. On the break, Mikal Bridges, he slams it home. I mean, it is just not fair playing this team. Double-digit victories in both the first 2 rounds. Villanova cruising, Jay Wright cruising, but they had a test here in the 3rd round. West Virginia, Javon Carter, you might have known them, and they're pressed Virginia. They gave them a test and led in stretches of this game, but Jalen Brunson and one. You'll see a block right here from Spellman. They get loose on the break. Oh, and another finish, clean up by Spellman. Wow. They can score in many different ways. Brunson with the assist. They cruised through West Virginia late in that game, even though West Virginia gave them a big test and took down Bob Huggins' team. Really great win for Villanova, and they looked like they struggled at many points in that game with the defense. But they could score, 10 to 12 points in about 90 seconds, and no other team in the country can do that. Watch this. You might have heard of this kid, but if you hadn't, you definitely heard of him this past weekend. Dante DiVincenzo. He is phenomenal, and he's got some killer highlight plays. Watch this right here.
Boom.
Put back. Villanova would cruise through Texas Tech late in the second half. They had an average margin of victory of 18.25 points in the first 2 rounds of the game. They, to me, are the favorites going forward, but that's only because of how impressive they've looked, and it's been quite impressive.
Yeah, Villanova, they have so many different ways they can beat you, as you correctly pointed out. A little bit of a struggle there against West Virginia. I thought that that full court press really surprised them more than we would have thought with a team with a lot of great ball handlers, like Villanova does have. And really, they're just living off this Philly magic that's been around ever since the Eagles hit the playoffs. I think people are in a great mood and always getting behind the Cats in Philly. So
yeah, I think West Virginia was definitely the team that could have beaten Villanova, only because of their defense, but also because of their veteran leadership. I think if Javon Carter had a phenomenal game, I'm saying 30-plus points,
right,
they might have had a chance. But it just goes to show Villanova has great defense. They've got great transition offense. They can shoot. They can put it back on you. They're really skilled in many different ways.
Yeah.
And West Virginia, they got into foul trouble way too early in that game, a result of their defensive style. And it was basically over. I already knew it was over with 10 minutes left because they were already in the double bonus.
Right. And Villanova claims that the best three-point shooter on their team is their big guy, Spellman, as you pointed out, Amari Spellman. He's 6'9", and he can knock it down. He's like 240 pounds down.
Yeah, he could shoot it too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. He's a great jump shooter. So when you have that big, and Michigan knows that too with Mo Wagner, when he can play you inside out, just demands so much from opposing defenses. So that's something to look forward to as Final Four wraps up.
So Villanova is our first team. They won the East region, and they will play the winner of the Midwest region.
Right. And that came down to Duke and Kansas, and it turns out that the Jayhawks are the #1 seed, and they are going to the Final Four. Let's see how they got it done right now. Kansas Jayhawks, first round matchup against Penn, and we thought that this could be the round of the 16-over-1 upset. Penn is an Ivy League school. They always get that chance to get a win, but Devontae Graham ended up sealing this one. Bill Self, he knew it would be a tough little challenge there, but he's happy to get by into the second round, where they got a Big East team, Seton Hall. Seton Hall could not handle Malik Newman, one of the best wingmen in the country. Sophomore Miles Powell's from Trenton, New Jersey. That's the capital of my home state. And he made a 3 at the end that was important to some people in Vegas in a 4-point loss.
Hate those.
Yeah, Clemson put up a good fight at the end of the game. They were down by 20 for a while. You saw that huge jam earlier by Shelton Mitchell, but ultimately Kansas too strong with Newman in the game.
But this was the game to watch.
This one was Duke-Kansas, maybe the best game of the tournament. That's Wendell Carter Jr. laying one up to put him ahead. And here's an alley-oop to Azubuike, the big man on Kansas. He knocks that one, he slams that one home. Wendell Carter lost his legs at the end. Air ball sets up this huge game-tying 3 by Sky Mikhailuk. Is that how they pronounce it? Mikhailuk. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Grayson Allen, Duke legend, not to be there. Misses the game winner at end of the buzzer. So overtime, Duval with a 2-pointer. But you know what's bigger than a 2-pointer? A 3-pointer out on the wing from Malik Newman. He's going to be one to keep an eye out this weekend. Duval doesn't have it in him for 3. Grayson Allen's going to miss 2 of his own. So had a chance to be a hero. Couldn't get it done for Duke. And Kansas is going to walk away with the victory in this one. Here's a last-second attempt. Not going to be enough. And hey, it's another 4-point win for Kansas. and they're moving on to San Antonio. And Bill Self.
And Bill Self back to the
loving-
Final Four.
Loving that one. So Kansas is a dynamic team as well. They've got the inside presence with Azubuike. They play really strong defense. We didn't get to see much of it in that highlight reel. But they have the wingman and Newman, the shooter and Mikhailuk, and Devontae Graham, a tremendous senior leader on that team as a point guard. So it's going to be a fun matchup. This is the side of the bracket we were talking about with two of the stronger, the number 1 seeds in the tournament. So I'm looking forward to see what this game has to offer.
And that was a great game to watch. I think it's been the best game of the tournament so far. But the back and forth, Kansas in foul trouble, Duke in foul trouble. At one point, Azubuike fouled out of the game, and you think it's basically over for Kansas until Wendell Carter Jr. also fouls out of the game on a ridiculous charge call. Grayson Allen with the finish at the end, that could have gone in. This game was a game of inches, and it just came down to, did the shots fall? Did you get the calls? And it was that close. It was a fantastic game. And Mikhailuk, I can't believe that Duke didn't try to close him out on the shooter. He's a 45% three-point shooter.
Yeah.
But he also guarded the big mans all game.
Right.
He played great defense for having, at least 6 inches undersized on Carter. The fact that he's able to take on that kind of, responsibility for the team is tremendous, and I thought he was the player to watch.
Yeah, these elite teams, they have players that can play down low with guys who are bigger than them, or they can take their man off the dribble. It works out both ways just because of the amount of skill that I think these guys have on their team. And the matchup with Villanova, I think, is really interesting. Azubuike, you mentioned, he's a big guy. He gets in foul trouble a lot, fouled out of that game at the end. But I heard another interesting take that Azubuike is not a good foul shooter, so you don't really want him in the game if you're winning down the stretch and you need to make those important free throws. We've seen that the teams that have been able to make enough free throws are the ones that are moving on and not suffering in these late game pressure moments.
And it was surprising. I was shocked that Marvin Bagley only had 3 field goal attempts in, I think, the last 12 minutes of play, including overtime. They have to get the ball to him, and I think that was one of the huge issues. That's what I meant. Mikhailuk was also guarding him as well, but the fact that their bigs didn't get the ball more was pretty surprising, especially while Kansas was in foul trouble. All right, so that's one side. We have Villanova facing off Kansas, another blue blood battle, and that will take place on Saturday. But on the other side of the bracket, if you haven't heard this story, you must have been living under a rock. This is absolutely incredible. Roll the tape. Loyola Chicago, if you don't know them, you do now. Down 1 to Miami, Marcus Towns feeds it to Dante Ingram, and the place is going nuts. 3-pointer to win it. They win in the first round, but that was just the beginning. Here's Clayton Custer, the fadeaway. Off the backboard, and it rolls in. Here's another look at it. And you can tell Loyola Chicago going nuts. And it falls in. They win by 1 point in that one as they defeat Tennessee in the second round. Third round versus Nevada, who came back from 22 down to Cincinnati. And there's Marcus Towns with the go-ahead 3. They're up 4. Sister Jean and Loyola Chicago on a mission from God, a mission from heaven. And right here again, playing Kansas State in the Elite 8. Robinson with the 3. What are the Ramblers made of now? This is where you really test to see what are your skills. Kansas State is no joke, but they dominated that Big 12 side, and they advanced to the Final Four. And the Ramblers are the story. The Cinderella dance continues. It's been incredible.
Unbelievable. I mean, they look like a great team out there, though. It's not like they're winning games because other teams aren't coming through and playing poorly. Their defense is, they're locked down on defense. They're making all their shots. They've got all their lineup can knock it down really from anywhere on the court. So that's critical for pulling off these upsets. And I don't think they're a joke.
When we were doing the bracket analysis episode, we predicted Loyola Chicago would win in that first round.
Right.
And that was because they have 5 seniors who score, or not 5 seniors, but 5 starters who score over double digits a game. They have multiple seniors, and they won this Missouri Valley Conference, which some people say 6th, 7th best conference in the nation. And they are no joke. They've proven now that they can shoot. Michigan will have their hands full because they can shoot 50% from the floor and above 40% from three. Their defense is phenomenal. Their pacing is great. They have the leadership and the composure. And as you can see, they can hit the shot when it matters most. And did I mention they have Gada and Sister Jean on their side?
Sister Jean has been an interesting topic this whole tournament. She's maybe the biggest story. And yeah, I don't think it's a joke anymore. I think something's up with Sister Jean. That's propelling Loyola each round. They keep moving on.
Here's a fun fact. It's been 59 days since the Ramblers last lost a basketball game.
That's pretty scary.
It's impressive.
Yeah.
And they've impressed us, and they deserve to be where they're at right now and getting out of that South region.
I couldn't tell you how many games, but the team that they're going to play in that Final Four has not lost a game in, what has it been now, 11, 12 games?
I think it's something around 11 games.
The Michigan Wolverines are the next and final team in the Final Four.
But how'd they get there? How'd they get there,
Let's see how they did it. Roll the footage. All right, Montana, first round. We're picking up in the second half. They struggled in the first, but Xavier Simpson gets to the hole there. And Montana had a little game of their own. This one is Michael Agune with a jam, and then a jumper from Ahmed Rory. Kept it in single digits with under 3 minutes to go. But eventually the Wolverines, with their free throws, just too much for the Montana Grizz. And Michigan was moving on to the second round. And maybe the biggest slugfest for Michigan thus far, Houston. With just 50 seconds, Charles Matthews up one, misses the three, and Livers fouls. What are you doing? Here's Rockman, the senior leader, with the layup off the glass, doesn't go. Matthews, the follow, rims out. Davis fouled. He'd miss the first free throw, make the second free throw. And this is going to put Houston up by 2 with 25 seconds to go. What would Michigan's response be? Give it back to Rockman. The senior drives in. This one rims out as well.
And we've seen him make that shot all season
long. Oh my
long.
goodness. Davis, who's been 9 of 10 on the night, misses the first, the second, misses it as well. Wagner calls a timeout. And here's a baseball pass. Livers into Marr. Marr contested. Jordan Poole nails it at the buzzer. Michigan is headed to the Sweet 16, and they're chasing him all over the court. Houston couldn't believe it. And then the shooting display. Jordan Poole, not in my house.
A little X?
Yeah, Xavier Simpson wants to get in on the action. He knocks down a three. A little inside out. Marr finds Wagner. Wagner, it's been a little bit iffy with his three-point shooting this tournament.
I'm loving the class participation.
Yeah, that's right. The A&M game, he was finding his shot, and this one's from the corner spot. We're going to see a couple more shots from that corner spot. Marr really enjoyed it too. Rockman hits a three, puts Michigan up by 26 with 3 minutes left in the first half. Robinson from the corner, nothing but net. One of the smoothest strokes in all of college basketball. And they're up 29. How about freshman walk-on CJ Baird cans it with 30 seconds left. The bench is going wild. It's just everything turned up Michigan. And now in the Elite Eight, they had a 6-point lead and one from Florida State. But Duncan Robinson from the corner, again, nothing but net. 10 points, would it be enough? I don't know. There's a missed three, but here's gonna be a follow-up by Phil Colfer to cut it to 2. And that looks like a big man who knows that Michigan sealed the deal with Robinson's 2 free throws critical down the stretch. Beeline leads the Wolverines to his second ever Final Four appearance, and the last one being in 2013 with that Trey Burke Hardaway team.
And Michigan is back, and it's fantastic. Real nail-biter game down there versus Florida State in Los Angeles. They didn't show it in the highlights right there at the end, but Xavier Simpson, of all people, had to make a free throw to push the game, or to give Michigan the win, basically. And it was amazing. I'd said it all year. The writing was on the wall for Michigan to lose a game with their free throws just based off how poorly they were shooting. And it was just going to come down to, with all the pressure in the world on the line, are you going to make those free throws? And they did. And so I'm really happy for X because he got it when it mattered most.
Yeah, it's not over yet, so they might be called upon again to make some critical free throws.
I mean, this Loyola Chicago team's no joke. They got to make their free throws. They got to make everything.
I can tell you that this campus is going to be on edge Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
Ann Arbor was rocking all weekend with the big wins that we had over Texas A&M, Florida State, and it's going to be exciting to see what this.
So I know we have a little bit of Michigan bias, but out of the 4 teams, who really impressed you the most?
Well, Loyola, just because no one thought they would be here.
Nobody,
right?
Yeah.
if we're looking to who's going to win it all, I would go with Kansas right now. I didn't think Kansas would get past Duke. I thought that was a crazy tough region. MSU went down pretty early, but they're playing complete basketball with Newman out wide. You got Devontae Graham, the leader point guard, and Azubuike, the big.
Yeah.
I think they're the strong favorite right now. I think they're going to have a battle with Villanova. Villanova's a great team. But right now, I like Kansas as my favorite.
Well, I like Villanova. We'll get to that in a bit. But don't go anywhere. We're going to have a commercial break. But when we come back, we're going to have some basketball analysis with our very own John Rubenstein. Don't go anywhere.
You gotta finish. B-roll. Hey, Liza, what's up?
Oh my gosh.
Um,
Guys, how's it going in here?
hey, what's up? Wow. What is Jordan? You done with the script? Wow, this is crazy. Wow,
Liza.
all right, well, that's I'm going downstairs.
All right, guys, they're gone. Put the game on.
Finally.
Go, go, go. Come on, Clemson.
All right, welcome back to Sports Night. We've called on our Sports Night all things basketball analyst, John Rubenstein, here to break it down. So it's easy right now to pick Michigan as the favorite to win it all. They're the local team, but who do you see, John, as the favorite to cut down the nets in San Antonio?
I mean, look, I'm not going to lie, Michigan's really attractive, but I like Villanova. This team looks, acts, plays like a championship team. They just emanate championship pedigree. I mean, and there's several reasons for this. I think, one, they're peaking at the right time. They've played 8 games in March. They've won each of those games by double figures, including some where they haven't even played their best basketball. I mean, they only shot 33% against Texas Tech. They were 4 out of 24 from downtown, and they still won that game because of their defense, 71-59. Good teams, championship teams, know how to win even when they're not at their best, and Villanova has done that and more. They're also really balanced in terms of both positionally and offense-defense. Like, we all knew that Jalen Brunson and Mikal Bridges were studs at guard, but Eric Paschal as well, down low, is an absolute beast, and everyone knows, of course, that Villanova can score, but they've shown their defense as well, holding Texas Tech again to 59 points. So championship teams are also balanced. They're also experienced, and Villanova has been there before. 2 years ago, they cut down the nets, and that kind of experience can go a long way mentally when the lights come on in the Final Four. So I like them to cut down the nets again on Monday for all those reasons. I think they're the best team right now remaining in the tournament.
I'd agree with you, John. I think that Villanova, I picked them at the beginning, and I'm going to continue with them now. They have
Pat on the back again.
Hey,
I picked Virginia.
You gotta be consistent here, and I'm just being consistent.
How far
that's
did they
all.
go?
It's hard for me to show my face on this show after picking Virginia, but
No, I would say that all the different ways for Villanova to score, their transition game, their three-point game, their defense, they have all the elements working for them right now. You don't really see a weakness in Villanova's team, and I really like them. I love the coaching, and I've loved what they've done all season, and they've been here before, so they definitely have the edge over these Michigan and Kansas teams that, as a program, have been there, but not these current rosters.
And you can't down Jay Wright. Jay Wright's an outstanding coach, so I do like Villanova, but they're all deserving.
Now, you like
to be there.
Villanova, but we got 4 teams here in this dance.
Right.
And so we want to hear, why could each team win the tournament? What are the pros and cons to each team?
All right, should I just go team by team? All right, I'll start with Loyola Chicago. If you think Michigan is the team of destiny in this tournament, you're dead wrong. Just look at Loyola Chicago. They've got the buzzer beaters. They've got the fortuitous bounces. They have the beloved Sister Jean. All of this working in their favor. They emulate what March is all about. So that's why I like Loyola Chicago. But it's more than just the magic and the luck. I mean, they're a really good basketball team. And just because they're in a lesser-known conference doesn't mean that we should slight them at all. Their guards are extremely, extremely quick. That makes them really hard to contain. And that's why they were able to shoot over 40% from 3 during the regular season, over 60% from inside the arc during this tournament. They're just really hard to contain. They end up with a lot of open shots, and their agility is so unique. I think teams have trouble scheming against them defensively. So their offensive firepower, their quickness, and their destiny are the reasons that you could pick Loyola Chicago to cut the nets down on Monday in San Antonio and go all the way. Now, on the flip side of that, I think there's going to be a reality check. They're an 11 seed. The bottom line is the other 3 teams in this Final Four have NBA-level talent, of which Loyola Chicago has none. I don't know if they'll have the firepower to contend with a Duke, a Kansas, a Michigan, who have NBA-level talent, especially for 2 games in a row. 2 games in 3 days to knock off 2 of those teams, I think is going to be a really tall task for Loyola Chicago. The Magic can only go so far, so I think they'll have a bit of a wake-up call this weekend, despite all the buzz and hype that surrounds them at this time. So, all right. Should I just go down the line?
So that's
All right.
Loyola. I love that analogy, especially
Yeah.
with their ball fakes and their shot fakes to open up more shots.
Yeah.
I was watching Jay Billis on ESPN, and he did break down how the slightest little movement creates their opening looks, and it's quite phenomenal the creativity that team has to create shots.
Yeah, they're
all around.
They're really crafty. It makes them so hard to
and
guard.
they scrap on defense in the same way that their offense is able to find those spaces on the court and make plays.
Yeah,
defense
absolutely.
is coming up big as well.
Absolutely. So they 100% deserve to be there. So we'll see what happens going forward. They are playing Michigan, so I can move on to the Wolverines, the hometown Wolverines, of course. There's a lot to like about this Michigan team. Defense wins championships is the old adage, and Michigan has the best defense that they've had in years. I mean, they held Texas A&M, I believe it was, to 31.4% shooting from the field. So this is the best defensive team that John Beilein's had in a long time. And, oh, yeah, John Beilein is also an offensive mastermind. Because, I think that's the problem. I picked Virginia because I said defense wins championships. I mean, you need both, right? Like, you need offense and defense, right? I mean, that's the saying is defense wins championships, but you need both. And John Beilein will, I think, has the ability to get the offense together. They've been a little bit inconsistent, but they scored 99 points against Texas A&M. So if they can put their offense and defense together for a couple games, they are more than capable of taking home everything. And, of course, they, much like Loyola Chicago, have this great feeling around them as well. They had the buzzer beaters, too. They got Coach Beilein in a poncho throwing water.
Right. Yeah. What happened to the Super Soaker?
I don't know.
I missed the Super
I think he's
Soaker.
waiting to bring that out for the championship.
The ultimate.
I think he's
the
saving
ultimate
it.
moment.
Yeah,
to
but
bring
just,
out the
I mean,
Super
we're all
Soaker.
here on campus. Just the feeling around campus, the feeling around this team. They're so likable. It's hard to root or pick against them. There's a lot to like about Michigan. They're the most complete John Beilein team they've had in a while, offensively and defensively. If they can just put them together for a couple games, I think they're they have a good chance of winning it all.
You know what's interesting about Michigan? They brought in this defensive coach, Luke Yaklich, this year. Michigan's defense this year is better than we've seen in a long time. And where did they get him? They got him from the Missouri Valley Conference, Illinois State, where he was an assistant head coach on that Redbirds team. And Illinois State played Loyola Chicago twice last year, and they beat them. They beat them by almost 20 points in the first game. They beat them by 2 points in the second game. A lot of these senior leaders on Loyola were also on that team last year for Loyola Chicago. So I think coming from that conference, it's really beneficial that Michigan has someone like Yaklich to break down Loyola's film thus far. And, I mean, it's all he did last year.
And
so
I think a lot of the credit defensively also has to go to Billy Donlin, who was there last year and left. But he kind of, I think, set the foundation culturally to be a defensive juggernaut, and that's maybe carried over into this year. But what's not to like about Michigan, as I just mentioned, is their offensive inconsistency. Right. You can't be hot and cold in the Final Four. You have to be really solid. And the fact that Michigan has averaged greater than 1 point per possession in only one of their 4 tournament games is concerning. Will the moment be too big for them? Will free throws finally do them in? It seems like it was going to all year. Yeah. That could come out in the Final Four or in the championship to bite them. So these are all concerns I have about Michigan. If they can get their offense together, and John Beilein will put the scheme in place. It's just execution. Are they maybe in their heads a little bit in the moment when they're shooting free throws or trying to knock down these threes? These are my concerns with Michigan, and they have to be really solid shooting the ball this weekend.
I've been so impressed by the defensive guard play by Michigan. I think Charles Matthews and Xavier Simpson have played at an elite level defensively the first 4 rounds. I do agree with you in the first 2 rounds. They started off so slow. If Michigan repeats that effort, they will probably lose to Loyola Chicago because they cannot afford to shoot that poorly in the first half again. But overall, that Texas A&M game showed me what they're capable of. And if they can tap into whatever they tapped in Los Angeles that night, I think they definitely have a really good chance to possibly go all the way.
Yeah, it's just a question of which team will show up.
That is a great
All right,
question.
we're starting to run out of time, so let's get to the #1 seeds, the chalk of this tournament, Villanova and Kansas. Start with Nova. What do you see in the Wildcats?
I mean, I mentioned it all earlier. They're experienced, they're balanced, they've been there before. You know, their momentum is on their side. Just to reiterate that, I mean, this is a team that put up 90 against West Virginia, or Press Virginia, as some people call them. Very impressive. This is a team that contested 86% of shots in the last game that they played. So they're just really balanced. I think if they play to their potential, they will win because they're the best team remaining in the tournament. Objectively speaking, you know, they're a 1 seed. Other than Virginia, I think they were the best team entering this tournament. So that's what I like about Villanova. It was really hard for me.
There's got to be an Achilles heel.
It was really hard for me. I mean, I was looking and I just can't find one really. If I were to say, have you guys heard of Murphy's Law?
Yes.
Anything that can happen will happen.
Right.
That's been the story so far in this March Madness tournament. If that continues in the Final Four, then Villanova won't win.
If Villanova misses some shots, you know, they could get out of their rhythm, and then it starts affecting every aspect of the game. You know, your head gets off. I think
I thought
that's
Texas
what you're
Tech
getting
at times played a weirdly strategic game, and given how poorly Villanova shot, I did think there was an opening to possibly snag one from the Wildcats in that scenario. I do think maybe Michigan's defense will be the code that's able to crack their scheme. Because I do think that although Press Virginia is great, I already knew from the beginning that the transition offense of Villanova was probably going to be too much to handle for the course of the whole game. And then once they got into foul trouble, you could slowly see it just building towards a Villanova win. Not once during that game did I think really that West Virginia was going to win.
But you're right, they are beatable. I think that's what makes it so intriguing, that there was no one team. It's not like Kentucky in years past where like they're just leaps and bounds above everyone. If Villanova has an off night, they're beatable. Even if they don't have it, I mean, they are beatable.
The perfect recipe, it can happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Jalen Brunson's playing so consistent right now that it's hard for them to have an off night. So what about their opponents?
Kansas.
The Kansas Jayhawks. You know, I pick Kansas every year, and they always break my heart. But this year, they look really good. It's a guard-driven game now, and I love Kansas because of their guards. I mean, they have Mikhailuk, Devontae Graham, but Malik Newman as well has been spectacular. He had 32 against Duke in their overtime win. So I like Kansas because of their guards. I don't think any team left can match up with their guards. They're going to have to try to slow them down. If they have an off night, they can be contained. But if not, if they're at their best, like, look out for Kansas's guards. On the flip side of that, though, I think they're weak on the interior. Their center has been injured, has fouled out of the last 2 games, only makes 41% of his free throws. So you need a complete team to win a championship, and I don't know if Kansas has what it takes on the inside. But, you know, we'll see. Time will tell. I think that's an incredible matchup between Kansas and Villanova, just all across the board. So I cannot wait for this weekend. I absolutely can't wait. I know a lot of people are going down to San Antonio. I won't be able to do that, but I will be glued to the TV screen for these Final Four games.
Well, thank you very much, John. Again, it's always great to have someone who's on the ball with his Final Four knowledge.
On the ball. I see what you did there. Was that intentional?
Before you go, so you got Villanova, going, but I just want to know, you know, for all the homers out there, Michigan, what do you got for Michigan? Do you think, you know?
I think they'll beat Loyola Chicago.
And they'll be in the championship?
And I think they'll lose in the championship. All right. I'm just being real.
Don't make any plans Monday night. All right. Well, coming back from commercial break, we'll have some hockey to get over, because if you hadn't noticed, hockey has been making some noise as well. But don't go anywhere. Sportsnite coming back after this. Welcome back to Sportsnite. My name is Oliver Moody, and I'm here with Jerry Goosenberg.
Yeah, how about the Michigan Wolverines this past weekend?
I mean, back-to-back conference tournament champions, that's quite something.
Yeah, you know, Michigan mostly known as a football school these past few years, especially with the hiring of Jim Harbaugh. But, man, forget the khakis. These kids should be wearing what John Beilein has on.
I mean, it begs the question, Michigan, now a basketball school?
Definitely a question to consider. All right, moving on. Let's go to the game from this past weekend. Michigan versus their arch rivals, Michigan State.
Welcome back to Sports Night. Now, Oliver, although the men's basketball team was all the rave this past weekend in Ann Arbor around campus, you may have forgotten that the Michigan men's hockey team was in the NCAA tournament on Friday and Sunday. So let's see how they did. Oliver, you got the highlights from here. Let's roll the tape.
Boom. Michigan in the Northeast region, Worcester, Massachusetts, taking on Northeastern. Hostile crowd. But as you can see, Luke Martin feeds it around to Cooper Marody, and he slots one in. Michigan up 1-0. Northeastern later on in the power play. Hobie Baker finalist Dylan Sakura, and he finds one on the back post, left wide open, 1-1 tie game. Moving on to the third period, where Dexter Donk skates past the neutral zone, and watch this one. Ooh, gets it over the goaltender. That one was pretty. Michigan leading 2-1. Later on, Northeastern wouldn't go away. Eric Williams from the top of the zone, and look at that squeak by.
Right through.
2-2. This was a nail-biter in the first one, but Donks goes all the way down, finds Calderon, who feeds it in the middle for Marody. 3-2 Michigan. They take the lead late in the third, and they'd win 3-2, moving on to the regional final. Okay, now in the regional final, Michigan taking on Boston University. Michael Pastujov finds Quinn Hughes from sniper range.
Past every defender, all 5 of them.
Later on in the first, Michigan on a power play after a BU goal, and Tony Calderon finds Cooper Marody, 2-1 Michigan. Michigan would break out to an early lead after a goal by Brandon Warren off the boards, but BU wouldn't go anywhere. Look at this wraparound, filthy goal by Boston University's Patrick Curry, and look at this terrible defensive play. Drew Mendelson cleans it up for Boston University, 3-3. Michigan looking rattled in the third period, but there you go. Jake Slaker with an individual effort, 4-3 Michigan, and then later on, the goal by Nicholas Boca to put Michigan up 5-3. That solidified it, and an empty net goal. Michigan is going to the Frozen Four. This has not been their best team, but they are there, and they have to make it count. It has been quite an incredible ride. And the funny part, Connor, is we were over there at the desk, but not too long ago, I told you in confidence that I didn't think this Michigan team could even make the tournament, let alone the Frozen Four.
Really?
I
Is
did.
that what you said? Did
I
you
believe
really
that
think
said.
that?
We do have some evidence as to what I said.
Okay.
And I know it's a little embarrassing for me, but I'm man enough to admit when I'm wrong, because in this case, I was dead wrong.
I'll be honest with you real quick. I didn't get to a game this season, and that's one of the biggest regrets I have, because this Michigan hockey team is phenomenal. I do have some inside information from people I know who were able to go to the games, and they were following along all season, even when Michigan's record was like right around 500, and you got a little bit concerned. They thought that this hockey team was pretty strong, and they're playing against a really tough Big Ten conference. So I think at the time I was thinking that, yeah, maybe if everything turned out Michigan's way, then it was possible.
So this was back in January, I believe, fresh off Mariucci Trophy victory away at Minnesota, a sweep away at Minnesota. But roll the tape. Here's some Sports Night memories.
Starting to get hot at the right time, it seems like, for Michigan hockey.
It's going to be tough for them because their record right now does not indicate that they will have any postseason play. So they're kind of reliant on winning the Big Ten tournament in order to get into the tournament, the NCAA tournament. Their season's been a little rough around the edges. They lost a lot of players in the past couple of years, star players who now are in the NHL.
Right.
So you know that their model is working. They have a new coach, but they got a lot of improvement to make because the Big Ten as a conference is improving.
But you get 2 wins on the road against a top 10 opponent in Minnesota, and then your ranking starts to climb a little bit.
Of course. Minnesota's definitely a prized opponent to beat.
Right.
But it's that inconsistency, losing to a bad team one weekend at home and then beating one of the best teams away.
Yeah.
Where do you see
who you are.
the trend there going? All right. Let me give at least a chance to defend myself. Since that that was January 15th, Michigan has won 14 of their last 17 games. With a tie in there, with an average of 3.5 goals per game and 59 total goals. At the time, they had a below 500 record in Big Ten play, and they were 10-10-2. What happened?
I'm still trying to get over that Sportsnite memories clip. That's really an interesting segment to throw in there. I think I'm happy that the Eagles won the Super Bowl because I don't think I would have been able to process that jersey I was wearing under my jacket. I looked like an absolute clown.
There wasn't much context, but yes, it was before the Super Bowl.
It was before the Super Bowl.
Your Eagles were in, I believe, the NFC Championship game at the time.
I was excited about that, but no, you're right. They turned it around completely. 14 of 17 is really unheard of in college hockey when you're going into these 2-game series. It's tough to even get a split when you're on the road, and the run has been pretty incredible with close win after close win, and I can't wait to see what they have in store with the Final Four coming up. Ohio State Buckeyes are a team in the Final Four who they've actually lost to 4 times. They haven't beat them yet. Got swept in both series with Ohio State, so it's gonna be a tricky Frozen Four. 3 Big Ten teams: Notre Dame, Ohio State, Michigan State.
And they lost to Ohio State in the Big Ten Conference Tournament.
That's true.
So they definitely don't want to see them in that championship game, but they have beaten Notre Dame, who they do face in the semifinal, I believe April 5th, the Thursday night, the week after this one, in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Okay, the best thing about the championship game is it only takes one. So if it were Michigan OSU, which would set some kind of alarm off around the country, best rivalry in sports, we'll see.
It's crazy because I do think 2 years ago Michigan had a significantly better roster than they do now. The NHL talent on their roster 2 years ago is actually shocking. And they're all really good players now in the NHL who are on that team. They had one of the highest scoring offenses, but I don't think they had the goaltender. Now they have a goaltender who can sit there and net and provide them good defense.
And it was pretty tough. They ended up losing to North Dakota State. They didn't make it to the Frozen Four. North Dakota State went on to win the tournament.
They were a great team
2 years ago. Phenomenal team, but yes, there's a lot of talent, maybe, like you said, more so than this year's team, and people were just disappointed. And this year, it's kind of the opposite. Like, the expectation wasn't, it was like, okay, maybe they'll get to the tournament. That's pretty good. Here they are, Frozen Four, and we're about to see what they can do.
Well, that's all we have for today, but it is quite a weekend or two coming up for Michigan fans.
Right.
It is great to be a Michigan Wolverine right now. They have the basketball team in the Final Four and the hockey team in the Final Four. Unfortunately, the women's team couldn't make it there, but you can't have it all.
No.
It'll be a great watch. Make sure you don't miss any of it, and make sure for more of your Sportsnite coverage, you tune in to us. Have a great night.
Oliver, it's been great to break it down with you.
It's been fantastic, and happy birthday,
Thank you.
Connor.
I appreciate it.
Have a great Sportsnite.